you grew up in D.C.
Yeah, the nation's
I know
capital.
that. And you said you were a news junkie as a kid, which some people describe themselves as an adult as a news junkie. I don't often hear people say, I was a news junkie when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Describe, how much of a news junkie were you?
I was a very popular kid, first of all.
Yeah,
Just
I imagine.
Super cool. And
that guy's a really amazing football player, but that guy knows the news.
he knows what's going on. Right? Like, he's trying to inform the citizenry. What a democracy nerd. So mom comes back to my mom. We were in the car a lot. And we had NPR on a lot. And the local station, WPFW, black-owned radio station out of D.C. We watched PBS. That was my cable network, was public broadcasting.
Right. So other kids were like, we're gonna stay up late and watch some cable. It meant something erotic. For you, it meant
information. And I guess I got so far. So we got the Sunday newspaper, and I would read it like cover to cover.
That's great.
The Washington Post. My mom had a subscription to this very nerdy tech magazine called Information Week, so I read that too because it was like around. And when I got bored in class, I would, in my earphones, listen to the news instead of the teacher.
Wow.
That's how much of a news junkie I was.
Right.
I was the copy aide, kind of an intern role at the Washington Post during my summers and even in the evenings during the school year.
Did you ever find yourself saying, I gotta go, I've gotta see the evening news, I've gotta leave right now?
When I would come home from school, I would race to get home so I could watch Tom Brokaw and the NBC Nightly news.
No one's ever said that.
I'm an original, baby. I'm an original.
And I love Tom Brokaw. No diss to Tom Brokaw,
Yeah.
but no one under 70 has ever said, we've got to get home, Tom Brokaw's on with the nightly news.
And there was no DVRing back in the 80s then.
No.
So you really had to catch it live.
You had to be there.
Yes.
You had to be committed.
Yes.
So you grew up in D.C., and tell me, I'm curious, because I know that one of the causes that you're interested in is statehood for D.C., something that means a lot to you. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about basic extension of human and constitutional rights to the residents of the United States.
Which I'm against.
Okay.
You knew that when you came.
Yeah, but I thought maybe I could
I wanted this to be a healthy debate. So let's talk about that, because one of the things that has been suggested many times is that D.C. Could be a state, Puerto Rico, statehood for Puerto Rico, and this is a threatening concept to people in this country. Talk about that.
To Republican people, to white Republican people who don't like the idea of black people voting, which is why that party has made it kind of an official policy to make it very hard for black people to vote. Listen, we in this nation, we're so serious about being represented by our government that we took the previous government's tea and dumped it into the harbor. Like all the tea. And we were close to Britain at that time, so I think Americans, as they existed, loved tea.
Yeah.
It was a big sacrifice to take all that and send King George back. And we had a whole war over taxation without representation. And then in the seat of power in our own government, in our own nation, we don't extend that to the people of D.C. And I take it personally because I grew up there, because my mother grew up there, my father grew up there, my grandparents, in many cases, grew up there. And D.C. is full of people, still mostly black people. A lot of them work for the federal government, making all this stuff possible. And you want to take all those benefits and all those goodies, but not let those people have a real senator? We have a shadow senator?
Yeah.
That's like a bad joke.
Right.
So let's on with the democracy. Let's move. This should be an easy. This should be a gimme. We can't be proclaiming democracy all over the world and denying representation to the people in our own capital, plus the people of Puerto Rico.
It's clear to me that, and I think to a lot of people, that there's fear is driving a lot of decisions by people in this country. And when I say people, I mean there are people that feel, and I think this has often been the case historically, my way of life is being threatened.
Right.
And we need to hang on to our way of life. And these are all sort of coded phrases for we need to hang on to our power.
Yeah.
And the demographics in this country are changing, things are changing, and oh, wait a minute, parts of the South are voting for Democrats, and this is scary, and we're starting to lose our grip. And so it's fear, I think, is that how you see it?
I think fear is a great word, because a lot of folks in this country have been convinced that the system was great for them.
Right.
And that's a story. It's a convincing and compelling story powered by a bunch of propaganda, like Confederate statues, as one small example, and a bunch of lies. And the tragedy is that this lie has lived for so long, that we should hoard all these resources for a few people, that we could tell this story that those aren't even people. That's what we convinced ourselves of collectively. They're not even human, therefore do what you want. Deny them rights, kill them whenever you want to. And so the other side of that has also suffered, right? If you're living under this lie that you're better than everybody else, then you think everything you got, you just deserved and worked hard. That's a painful miscalculation and misunderstanding of how the world works. And I think it limits what we can be. Because if folks let go of that fear, we could have a lot more stuff. We're talking about this in the podcast and How the Citizen, because I think about it this way. People talk about how great America's been, right? We want to go back to we went to the moon. We defeated the Nazis. Imagine how much more we could have done if we let everybody in.
Right.
Let everybody participate. We could have been to Mars if we let women have bank accounts. You know what I mean? Like, we could have done so many more greater things with the greatness that lies in all of our people. So I understand the fear because I'm a human being, and I know there are things that I'm holding on to that I'm afraid to let go of. But I also know from personal experience that when you face that fear, you let it go, it's a great release and a great relief, and it opens us up to the possibility of something bigger and better. So that's what I hope for us. It's part of why I do what I do through all the dark days, and we're living through some darknesses all the time. The pandemic is not a fun time.
Right.
What's happening in Minneapolis and across the nation is not fun, but I see the potential to have a different narrative that isn't based in that fear you just talked about.
You know, it's interesting because you're talking this year on the podcast about the economy and the economic divide. And this is something I think about all the time. And yes, racial issues and racial divisions have been with us since the beginning of this country's, history.
Yeah, it's written into our code.
Yeah, it is literally written into the DNA of our Constitution, sadly. But what has happened more recently is the division between the haves and the have-nots is getting more and more extreme. It's getting to levels that probably exceed what we saw in the 1890s, the Gilded Age, when people thought, well, that'll never happen again, where you have occasional Rockefellers and then everyone else has nothing and has to work their entire life and never get out of a slum. It feels like the people feel the middle class is slipping away. And this is a big part of what you're talking about this year on the podcast.
Absolutely. I mean, January 6th was a dramatic moment in terms of the attack on the Capitol, on our democracy. And if you didn't think we were divided before then, you saw that, and you're like, oh, I think we're a bit divided. And so what do we do about that? Do we talk about bipartisanship vaguely as some North Star? Or do we try to dig deeper into what is at the root of this? And I think it's not an either-or thing. The kind of codification of racial discrimination and the excess and the separation of money and how we've done capitalism here, they're intertwined. We denied labor rights to certain people as we expanded them for others. The whole union movement was very segregated in the beginning. And now we see a concentration of power, handful of a few companies, grabbing all the goodies, handful of people owning more than half the people. That's ridiculous. And we have this really perverse situation where folks are working really hard. 1 job, 2 job, 3 job, 4, and still can't afford their homes. We've heard the arguments, so many of us, the system is rigged, it's winners versus losers, winners take all, I get all that. So what's the other way to do it? And it's more democracy, dude. It's more of us showing up. It's being citizens in an active sense, not just in this legal, I was born here sense.
Right. When people are afraid, to me, there's a lot of obstructionism. When people get afraid, they cross their arms and they say, nope, nope, nope. And literally that's what's happening in the filibuster. That's happening. That's what a lot of, I think, Mitch McConnell's about is no. And no.
And he's not even, the part that I so sometimes want to vilify all Republicans.
Right.
And then I have to check myself.
Yeah.
And I look at the numbers, and you look at this anti-voting situation in Georgia. The majority of the people of Georgia didn't want that either.
Right.
In some cases, it's literally a handful of people who are overriding the will of the people
Yeah.
as pseudo-duly elected representatives who chose their voters more than their voters got to choose them because of gerrymandering and all these other shenanigans. And they're forcing things down the people's throat. So we all have to wake up. I do look forward to a real debate with an actual Republican if we could find one. I don't think Mitch McConnell's actually representing them many of the time. Sometimes he is, and I will disagree with that too. But a lot of times what the leadership is doing isn't reflective of what the people want.
Right.
And that's exactly how we got ourselves into the situation in the first place. That's why we put that T in the harbor, because those leaders were not responsive to or representing what the people wanted.
Yeah, I saw the other day this clip online, and it was this. It was Charles Barkley, and he said in his heart he really believes most people are good. He thinks that there are people in this country who can divide us and he said, to be fair, on the right and the left, there are people that can divide us by just getting us whipped up on hating the other side. It helps polarize us, and we can't get anything done. And he actually felt like there was more we could accomplish, that we're not as far apart as we think we are.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very hopeful message, you know?
And it's true. There's an organization called Beyond Conflict, and they have worked in literally war-torn societies all over the world for decades. And the aftermath of civil wars, that's real division. When folks are taking up guns and machetes and lobbing IEDs at each other.
Right.
Okay. So they have done studies there and practices to bring folks together. And what they found here in the US is that we're not as divided as we think we are. And the way they did it, they asked, for example, Democrats, what do you think Republicans think of you as a Democrat? And on a scale of 1, they hate me, 10, they want to marry me and have all my babies, they're like, oh, Democrats, oh, they feel a 1 toward me. They want to destroy me.
Right.
And then they said, Republicans, what do you think of Democrats? And I was like, I don't know, 4.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
It's like there's a gap.
There's a distortion. There's a perception distortion
and that's where leadership matters.
Yeah.
That's why I was so excited about Joe Biden, who I was not riding for Joe Biden. I was more of a Bernie type of person.
Right.
But I respected Joe Biden's awareness of his power to lead by language, by example, by channeling what's in all of us. There's good in all of us.
Yeah.
There is bad in all of us. And someone can pull one lever or the other and whip us into that frenzy that you talked about.
Yeah.
Or they can say, hey, that person's kind of similar to you.
Yeah.
I think we might be in this more together than apart. Why don't we play that part up?
Right.
And so it's not as bad in some cases as it seems. It is still real. And that's the kind of the complexity. It's like, I'm not trying to say we're already united, everything's great. It's not great.
Yeah.
It just isn't.
And to be
better.
fair, there's stuff I make it a practice I will tune into Fox to see what they're saying.
Oh, bless you.
Well, I want to support them in any way I can.
Do you have a timer, or what's the?
Oh, yeah.
How do you manage the
It's
intake?
a feeling you get inside. Yeah. It helps me digest my food.
I do tiny doses. You know, like people dose LSD, I like dose Fox News.
Yeah.
A micro
dose of Fox News is
News.
terrific. Yeah. It raises the blood pressure in a way that's quite healthy.
Yeah.
No, I like to flip around and see how different people are covering the same story, and I'll get irritated when I see sometimes CNN doing the same thing, or MSNBC doing a version of what they're doing on Fox News, just the opposite tact and harping on the negative. And I do think sometimes that, yes, there's money in the extremes. There's money to be made in the extremes. And the money is in extreme opinions on the left and on the right. And that's what whips people into this negative state sometimes, which bums me out.
And I think it's also a lack of imagination on the part of people trying to make that money.
Right.
You look at social media, which has turned this all up to 11, and how it amplifies disagreements, and there's profit in that, and it's laziness.
Right.
There's a different algorithm which doesn't have us grabbing pitchforks trying to stab the other person in the eye.
Yeah.
They just stumbled on the cheap one first, I think.
Yes.
I certainly hope.
It's the first thought.
Yeah.
It's not this, the best thought isn't always the first thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, let's evolve. Let's do
Right.
better than that. Maybe let's have more people involved who are impacted by these systems in the first place. Again, democracy, there I go. You know, the people having power and a say over the systems that influence them. That's the ticket through most of this stuff.
Right. It was funny. I was driving to work yesterday, and this truck drove by me, and it was like the guy was honking his horn. I mean, just in general at anybody. And he had a giant flag, and the flag said, "Socialism sucks!" And exclamation point, and this flag coming out of his car, and I thought, who's forcing socialism on you? Like, I think socialism for this guy is a buzzword for anyone who doesn't agree completely with his narrow agenda, is socialism. I kind of wanted to run him off the road and say, explain socialism to me, and he probably wouldn't be able to.
Socialism is the public hospital he gets taken to after you run him off the road.
Right, exactly.
And you have to deny that service if you hate socialism
Wait
so
a minute,
much.
is this for free? Yes. Forget it.
Send that stimulus check back, too. And also, while you're at it, get off this public road, sir.
Yes, exactly.
The socialist demonstration of engineering.
I don't want anybody fixing these roads. That's bullshit.
Yeah.